Right. We're going to give you Phil's Fast 15. We're going to discuss some of the topical footy things and put Phil under the pump. If you've got one, send it through 0433 98 11 16. Let's start. We've got a minute on each topic. We can go for the whole minute. We can go for 5 seconds and move on. It'll be your call. Phil, I discussed the fact that it's a very underwhelming free agency class coming up. We're about to see another one re-sign, Todd Marshall. Would it be better if the AFL had a maximum 5-year contract limit?
Yeah, well, I think for me, I see that clubs just keep on, breaking and giving up the big contracts. I think players and managers are entitled to ask for whatever they want. My view is that clubs, the big ones, I don't see many, has Geelong ever given out a monster contract? I don't know. I know Tom
Dangerfield might have got 5.
But I guess my point on that is managers come out and say, we want 7 years. Clubs should say, well, I'll give you 5. And then you play chicken. Because I think most players do not want to leave. And, when I talk to young players, I say, you do 2-year deals all the way up till free agency. You get to free agency, you do your big deal. And that's just how it is being structured at the moment. That's what I do. And I guess clubs would argue, hey, if I give him 6 years at $800,000, or do I give him 4 years at $1 million, I'm getting a discount for the extra few years. But there are a few contracts, I know you talk about a lot, that are long. But how I always view it is you're paying unders from 26 to 30. Let's use your usual free agent thing. You're paying unders from 26 to 30 to pay overs between 30 and 33 when the contract finishes. But that's when we all talk about it and go, geez, this contract's aged poorly.
Why don't the AFL just take it out of their hands, though, and say 5 years, that's the rules. It's 5 years max.
I reckon one day will be the point where we have clauses where you can say you can rip up a contract.
Yeah.
There'll be more triggers that say, hey, the AFL say you can go over 7 years. However, after 5 years, 6 and 7, there are certain triggers that have to be met no matter what.
All right, Phil, I reckon the public's perception is that 70 to 80% of AFL players take illicit drugs. Now, whether that's once a year, it's in the off-season, I reckon that's about the percentage that the public think AFL players indulge in that. What's your view, and should that bother the AFL and, by extension, the AFLPA?
It always bothered me, Kane. I never liked it personally to be sort of
the perception that brush. Yeah, the perception that
I never liked that as a player, like having someone that never touched it my whole life.
Did you ever address it with anyone? You were a delegate for a while, I think.
Delegate. I was a vice president of the PA. No, it's definitely a big topic. I think the hardest thing at the moment is it is a welfare problem as well in certain stages, and trying to delineate between the two, it's very difficult, I think, and that's probably the biggest challenge. But there is no doubt that if that's the perception, then that should bother the AFL and the AFL Players Association. I remember lots of players have said along the time, we're not role models, blah, 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 blah. But we are. You're in the public eye. You are leaders in lots of different ways, and our behaviour should carry more weight, and it does carry more weight because, think about the audience that we get. We go from, 2-year-olds to 4-year-olds to 8-year-olds to, all the way through. That should be, very concerning, and they should be worried about that, and they should be working on it. Because I know they really, really care about it. But currently, if that's the situation, we need to find a better solution.
Hoping to have Paul Marsh on later in the week. Hopefully, he's going to pop by in the studio. Phil, what are you weighing in at the moment?
I haven't been on the scales for a while, but I played at 94 for best part of my career, mate. And I think this is an interesting one because I do get the concept around weight and the problems that players and people can have around weight.
Tell me about some experience.
I've seen a couple of players that really struggle, that I thought their eating wasn't healthy. I noticed
by not eating enough?
Yeah, I saw a lot of players that were really, really conscious about their weight who got told you have to be X kilos, like calorie counting. And I understand that there's a very fine line between being a professional and eating very well, but the line between that and some
obsessive,
form of... and I've seen that a lot. And then, you do see it a lot. And I think how much we talk about it isn't healthy. However, I think this is just a simple solution for that topic because, I don't know, you remember, Cam, I don't even remember giving someone my weight at the start of the year. And often, I remember when I was smaller, I remember in like 2012, 13, I would have been like 91, 92 kilos. And the forwards were bigger back then, like Cloak and all them and Pav. They're all like 100 kilos. So I used to lie. So I'd be like, can you please put in that I'm 97 kilos in the AFL record, but I was 92. And then at the end, like, I didn't even care. Like, it never even bothered me. I never looked at another person's weight. I do think my special skill is guessing someone's weight just by looking at them, Kane. Right. So I didn't really need the AFL record for that one. But I think there are issues around eating with athletes.
Do you think this will help hiding players' weight though?
I don't think this helps. But maybe it takes away some stigma around it. I think, I remember the under-18s don't do skin folds anymore.
Right, yeah.
I understand that, but unfortunately, that first day at the AFL club, your skin folds get taken because you are a professional athlete, and it's about a healthy discussion. I know I'm going for longer than a minute because I am passionate. There has to be a healthy discussion about this because eating disorders can come in all sorts of forms. The dysmorphia stuff. So I think it's definitely an area that this probably doesn't help that, but it is at least hopefully making it aware to the public that players do have issues with their body too.
All right, Phil, if you had to choose a band, which band will Richmond finish season 2024 in? Bottom six, middle six, or top six?
I'll get splinters for this because I'll say middle six, but my comment is Tom Lynch doesn't play over 15 games, it'll be bottom six.
All right, what about Geelong?
Geelong, I just think they've just still got so much top-end talent. So they'll be middle six again. I just think they won't get back to the top again until they can plug some big holes in the midfield.
But they won't drop away.
They won't. They'll just because they just have the best. I think arguably got the best system in the game where you just don't lose big and you're always in games. And when you've got Cameron and Hawkins in the front and Dangerfield and Guthrie and those Duncan with the ball every now and again, yeah, I just think that it's my biggest concern is. And I'm sure Andrew Mackey and the team have got an approach, but they need to get some top-end talent around the ball.
All right, we're doing Phil's Fast 15 footy topics in a minute with Phil Davis. Gold Coast, do they play finals for the first time this year?
No, they do. I look at their team and I really don't see too many weaknesses if Ben King can take that next step. I think they are an amazing team. And from the little whispers I've heard, Kane, I'm sure you've heard the same, I don't think they feel as though they've been in a position like this with such a crystal clear game plan and an identity that they think will really stack up. So
that's what you're hearing out of the new Damien Hardwick-led
I'm
Gold
hearing
Coast.
that they're absolutely loving it. Nothing against Stewie.
Do you hear that every time with a new coach, though?
Yeah, you do. You do. I saw it firsthand with Kingsley last year, like that Richmond approach. And it was so structured, and once you understand how it works, like you saw it with the Giants last year, it just falls into place. Leon was very big on this is how we play, but there's a little bit of freedom around it, so a bit of flair. While the Richmond approach is no, this is how we do it, and this is not we don't mess on this, and this, and then it just slowly unfolds.
So if you're in the stands and you're watching for a change at Gold Coast this year, and similar to your team last year, what is the one thing he drives, like the Richmond model drives the hardest? What will Hardwick be driving?
Pressure on the ball. Yeah, it would just get pressure on the ball because fundamentally, if you win the ball back in the back third of your field or back 50, you've got 100, 150 metres to move the ball every time. The best teams move the ball 80 metres to score because they turn it over closer to their goals. And you put pressure on the ball, you're going to limit their scoring but improve your scoring. So that's what they'll be doing. They'll be fanatic because I always thought if I looked at Gold Coast and every time I looked at them, I thought behind the ball, you could really play with them. You could move them around because their pressure on the ball wasn't at the level that meant they could dictate behind the ball. And so you could move and shake and away you go. And we had a great success for a long time against Gold Coast.
All right. Does Matthew Nicks deserve a contract extension before round one?
No, I think he does. The one thing I would think we should get better at in the AFL is why not give him 1 year? Why not give him 1 year now? And then you can say, because for him, that'd be really important. Be like, hey, you will definitely be coach 2025.
Yeah.
But will you have a contract for 2026? Well, let's see. But I promise you'll be 2026. And then you go through the year and halfway through, you go, this is going really well. Well, here's that extension for 26, 27. I think we get scared of 1 year deals because of what it's saying. But if a coach wants security before, and I think Nixie's deserves a contract. I think what he's done, I thought he overperformed last year with that list.
Did you?
Yeah, I thought that I wasn't as big on Adelaide 12 months ago as I am now.
Right. What about Justin Longmuir then? Same?
Oh, he's going to have to earn that contract.
Okay.
Yeah. I think the reason why I say that was to go finals in 2022, and for me to be like, we're only going one way, and then all of a sudden last year was like incredibly disappointing. I think shows that you have to prove that there's improvement again, and say that it was an anomaly, not a trend, because I really like their team. I think he needs to add something to his coaching dynamic that helps them score and play with more speed. Because I see speed on their list. I think he's also hindered by the fact that they don't have a gun key forward.
Yep.
Having a gun key forward is so important because...
Can Jai Miss be that?
Oh, no, I don't think he's a key forward. I think he's a nice second, third piece. Josh Tracy's someone that's got some size about him. They had a lot of success with Tabner, and unfortunately...
Would you say that Collingwood don't have a key forward, though?
Yeah, I know, that's it. But I really like what they can do with Mason Cox, because if they're in trouble, they bomb it. He's a soft drop, so it doesn't clear the space too much, and their smalls are so busy. And then Myercheck just gets up and back. I just think they've got really nice balance, and then they've got this X factor, like Jamie Elliott's unreal. You know, they've just got this amazing, and they've got a guy called Jordan De Goey that sort of changes games pretty quickly too. So it's more probably for me that I would like Freo to find a way that their tools can do more for that side, because I think that's probably where they get let down the most.
All right, Phil's Fast 15, the Western Bulldogs, Carlton, North Melbourne, bit more of Fremantle, West Coast, and some pre-season injuries on the agenda still to come. Now, I've been fascinated by this Western Bulldogs review. I read in The Age yesterday from Pete Ryan that the review findings have been handed to the board, Phil. This is a Peter Jackson-led review. How much of that information should be released to the fans?
It is such a great question. I think that's probably something that I've really struggled with in my time. I think I've only been I think there's been 3 or 4 reviews that have happened at the club while I've been there, of which none have been like major or so well publicised as this. I just think this is, when you get the fans involved, there's some information that fans should know. I know the fans deserve to know most things, but there's some stuff that probably doesn't help the club and them by going public. And I think you've sort of got to discern and go through that and be like, all right, that's fair, that's fair. But I'd say that they probably should be able to see 75% of the report. I think they probably don't need to see, for example, how Luke Beveridge or how the GM or how the people interact and like the negatives there. But I think structuring and things like that, where we could do this better, this better, this better, I think that stuff's worth doing. I think the real intricate stuff they probably don't need to read.
Yeah, I think
it has been, 2 and a bit months?
Has been. November 13 it started. Apparently the board have the preliminary findings of that and are going through that at the moment. So it couldn't be too far from the fans having some information, which the club said they would provide to its fans. But I kind of agree with what information should be released. Now, David King is doing a great job heading around to all the Victorian clubs, having a look at their training. Carlton training the house down. He said it was the most intense session that he'd seen from any club so far. I did note that he said McGovern is in the best form that he's been in his career, or fitness and form. Why is it taking him until the age of 29 and in his 9th pre-season to finally get super fit? Frustrates me, Phil.
Yes. Yeah, I think there's 3 points to this one for me. Just the first one, I think McGovern's incredibly laconic with how he moves, which is never a good thing, because like you either make the game look really easy or you're not trying. So we'll just put that one to the side. The second one, he's been marred by injuries, and so I think if you know, durability is by far one of the best strengths you can have. And speaking from a bloke that just did not have it, I would have loved some more durability, because the more you train, the more you then can train. I know that doesn't sound like makes sense, but the more you train, the fitter you get, the more durable you get, the less training you miss. So it's like this beautiful cycle that keeps going, while the inverse is true too. But then third, he's 29. The scariest age for any football is 30. As soon as you see 30, one, if you get to 30, you've done well because you've bucked a lot of trends. But 2, you think to yourself, I'm supposed to be slowing down soon. My best years are here. And, you know, it's sad because, I've met a lot of players that go, they're 26, 27, 28. Oh, I wish I know now what I did at 21, 22. And you know that there have been senior players and others and coaches and staff trying to tell them.
That information's been there the whole time.
But unfortunately, some people just click at different weights, and, it's hard to say. But, I think what we see with Mitch particularly is if he's fit and could play more, I think we see a player that really suits that sort of third, fourth back role.
Frustration, because even when he was at Adelaide, the talent, the speed, the explosiveness, sit on heads was as exciting as any prospect coming through. Now he's played some good footy, don't get me wrong, but that's even more frustrating for me. I just don't think he's prepared himself well enough to elite athlete standards, which has hurt him. And now he's going, okay, gee, I better make the most of this. There's a premiership to win and I've got to extend my career. I'm going to get fit. If that is what has happened, I'd be incredibly frustrated. Similar to the discussion we had with Jake Stringer yesterday. Phil, has North Melbourne erred in not addressing its defence in the rebuild? This is its back six, according to the SEN guys that have done their best 23 for the year. Luke McDonald, Logue, who's coming off a knee, Goda, Zach Fisher, Aiden Core, Harry Sheasel. Have they gone too heavy in the midfield on their rebuild?
Yeah, I think it's difficult, and I think the hardest thing is the mids. You always go hard on the mids, and my biggest concern is backs. If you're going to go to the draft, and I know, for example, Curtin is very much publicised because they expected him to come in Adelaide and just play. It is very difficult. I was drafted. I picked 10 as a key back, and I was not ready to be the key back until 22, 23. So you have to actually invest a long way in front. But you can also get a good key back at the second round pick. Sam Taylor's picked 27. There's been a few good second round picks. I think Rance was 20-ish. So you definitely go top end talent unless there's a standout. You can go mids. But there's no doubt that back line doesn't shape up as nicely as where their midfield's looking. For me, I like a few of the players back there, but none of them are overly tall. So Aiden Core's 195, and I think he's a really, really good player. Injuries have once again hurt him, but we played him at the Giants as a third back because he's so fast and so agile. And that to me is almost his best position, but he's going to have to play taller. And that's probably where I think they've missed out. And this is the one thing that I noticed at the back end of last year and the year before was there aren't a lot of key backs sort of floating around the system. And that's why you see like Liam Jones, I think he got a 3-year deal to go back to the Dogs. And so they're going to find it harder to start plug that unless they actually do go to the draft. And I think they really need to start investing in some tall players because I think, they'd be looking down the forward line and be like, well, we've got Larky. He's unreal. Who's helping him? I think
Comben, hopefully.
They're hoping Comben. I like his shape.
Same. Yeah. I like his aggressiveness and the way he gets after it. But once again, durability is a factor there as well. And just if you start to draft those key defenders, as you said, it might take 4 or 5 years for them to develop. By that stage, your rebuild is off-kilter type thing. You haven't sort of married up exactly where you should be. Yep, maybe you target some free agents, but we saw how difficult it is to secure a key back. Do you think Sean Darcy will still be a Fremantle player by the end of his contract at 2030? And how do you see that duo with Jackson working?
Oh, I think he does, just because I just get a really loyal vibe from him that he really loves that footy club he's invested. He seems like he might actually be a future leader there, like long term. My biggest thing is, will Freo reconsider where they're putting all their assets? We know that the salary cap is a sum-zero game, so you have to, if you're going to pay someone, you can't pay someone else. So I think they'll look up the opportunity cost at some point. Like if you sat here right now and said, could I trade Sean Darcy for a gun key forward, like a Ben King or a Max King, I think they'd do it.
So that was my point. Like, could you have got 2 first-round draft picks for him at the end of last year? And look, I think they're a midfielder short. They haven't been able to replace Mundy, and fast body has let him down, so that has hurt. Brayshaw and Sarong, terrific, and Hayden Young's gone in there, but they're 1 or 2 short there. They're also a small forward short and a key forward short. Like you've said, their back line, their back six is amazing. So that was the point there. We'll wait and see how it works and whether Jackson can be that successful key forward that you have alluded to. Let's stay out west because Adam Simpson spoke to the media yesterday. Let's have a listen.
Yeah, I suppose it starts in the off-season and what the players do and how they go about it, how they turn up and what kind of program we put in place. So that started September, October, so that it goes back to there and hopefully we get a bit of a bump in that. And like I said, the biggest difference is going to be the type of players we have on our list.
So that was him addressing the concerns over injuries, which has been an issue for 3 years. They had another 3 injuries yesterday. I took that, and maybe I've taken it the wrong way, so tell me if I have, Phil, that some of his players didn't prepare themselves well enough with the program that was put in place in the off-season.
Yeah, and it sounds like almost he's alluding to their injuries previous years was because of a similar problem too, wasn't it? So we touched on it earlier in the show. The work that has to get done in October, November is a lot. You have to really get busy. Back half of September too if you don't play finals, which is obviously West Coast for the last few years. So he's disappointed. When I read that, I think to myself, generally what happens is, you can always take this to the bank. a player at the end of his first year, let's say there's 5 first years, the next season, at least one will absolutely stuff up their off season. They'll come back in bad shape. They would have not done the program well, and they will look so far out from everyone else. You can pick it from an absolute mile away. And it sounds like because they're such a young group, maybe they've had more than one, and it's actually infiltrated a larger portion of the group than say what happens at, like, say, the Giants. Someone will come back. They're almost like the only person, really. It's them and then rehab, and you just put all this time into this one. But if you start having 5, 6, 7 players like that, that's a large portion of your group, and that can be really destabilising for your training. So I think if that's a continued theme, he'd be incredibly disappointed, because that's our job as players, was always to go away, get fit, come back, so that day one I can compete. Maybe not in match play day one, day one before Christmas. So middle of November, early December, I have to be able to do most drills, not match play, but most drills, and be safe.
Well, and the hunger factor as well is what surprises me. They've won 5 games in the last 2 seasons. Every second week they get beaten by 10 goals. So I would have thought the first thing that you would do, I've seen it a bit with North Melbourne. I reckon to me, they look like they've come back super fit. And
I've heard great things,
to go.
Kane.
Yeah, and hungry and driving each other. We've seen what the Bombers have done in the off-season. So I'm surprised that after the last 2 seasons, that if that is the case and players have taken liberties in the off-season, that's a real warning sign for me as to what is happening at West Coast. Yes or no answers with the last 2. So quick yes or no. Is it the right move for Harley Reid to start his career at halfback?
No.
Can Carlton win the premiership if Jacob Wiedering isn't sound?
No.
There you go.